Good evening and welcome back to the Last Storyteller podcast. I got a guest tonight. She's a writer, but she's also, well, she's been in more than 70 countries. She's rubbed elbows with the rich and famous. She was in the United States Navy. Now she calls herself an author. The name of her book is called Borderless because some of us were never meant to stay in one place. A 5-star review, one of her readers wrote this: while sometimes I laughed out loud, other times my jaw dropped in disbelief. I was glued to this book and I want more. That's a really nice thing for somebody to say, especially that last part. Folks, welcome to the Last Storyteller, Valerie Dost von Dostenberg. How are you tonight, Val?
I am great. How are you, Jim? And thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, thank you for coming on. I'm excited to talk to you about this book. It is a memoir. It's about your life, borderless, and you've had a busy life and an exciting life. Tell us about your story.
Well, so my story starts at the beginning, way back how my parents even met. My dad was World War II survivor, right? Born in Munich during the war. My mom came from a very wealthy Swiss family. And so those two worlds, collided. It's just so yin and yang. It was so different. And that's how my story started. And I just had to go through so many heartbreaks in my life. It started when my dad committed suicide and I found him. And then, months later, my mom died in a car crash. And it's hard for a 16-year-old how to move on in life. And so I just always felt, you have options, right? It's either you give up or you move on.
And you chose to move on.
I chose to move on, and life was not always simple. It was hard. And then I got the opportunity to work for some of the richest people in the world, but always in the back, never in the front. And I learned so much from them and unfortunately also about them. I had to sign an NDA, so I cannot disclose any dirty secrets.
Well, I was going to say that may make a great next book, but we want to honor your NDAs also.
Yes, please.
So was it that job, that occupation that led to the traveling? You've done extensive amount of traveling.
No, it came from my childhood, I guess. I was very fortunate that my parents brought us around the world on every opportunity. And, growing up in school, you got 6 weeks vacation. So, yeah. And I was just always fascinated with cultures, with different cultures and how people deal with grief, especially. Every culture and religion is just so much different. I guess I just try to find a way how I can deal with my grief. And on the other side, I was always finding a way how to get out of Switzerland, how to move in other countries.
There's so many people that wanna go there, and you were looking to get away from there.
Yes. I mean, I guess because of the memories I had, that heartbreak, and I didn't feel I belonged. And, just to skip ahead on my book, I actually went back 5 years ago. I returned to Europe. I worked in Monaco, and then that billionaire told me, hey, go to Switzerland. I gonna build a house, go back to your home country. And I realized that I really don't belong. I felt like a stranger in my own country.
Was it close to the area that you had grown up in?
Well, everything is closed in Switzerland, Jim. You know, in 4 hours, you cross the entire country.
Ah,
I think it was more just the way the Swiss people are that I just couldn't see myself or reflected in it anymore. And I guess I Americanized a lot, but then American says, no, you're not an American, you're more European. So yeah, I don't know where I belong. And I guess that's why the book title came Borderless. I don't have borders. I always look for the next bigger adventure.
and I'm glad you answered a question before I got to it.
Your mind.
I was curious about the name of the book because of I guess it's more because of what comes after the word borderless subtitle. Some of us were never meant to stay in one place. And in your bio, I'd read about your travels and I thought, I don't believe borderless is talking about geography. I think it was describing your life.
Yes. It's up to the heart and what we as human can endure and how we decide to move forward. there is no border. There is no box we live in, you know?
And your book, I think, will help people see that as a truth.
Yes, yes.
Not only for you, but for a lot of people. A lot of people don't feel like that. A lot of people, they feel they're placed in a box, if you will, and they'll spend their life in that box, which has got borders on all sides of it, and they never reach beyond that because they don't think that they can. They
Yeah,
don't think it's their position in life.
yeah,
Your position in life, if we were to go back all the way to your childhood, was one that was, I guess, maybe preformed to go in a certain direction. And then tragedy happened in your life. And at that point, maybe that's when the realization that there were no borders began to become real to you.
right. And also, I try to help people who think they're confined in certain situations and that there's no out, but there's always a out. There's always that window or that door in that box they think they're in,
Right.
and there's always an escape.
So I don't want to skip over the Navy part.
Oh, okay.
You were 35, is that right?
I was 36 and I
That's right.
joined boot camp.
And,
Yes.
and
So,
joined boot camp.
yeah, I was double the age of the recruits.
You were the mom.
Yeah, they called me actually mom in boot camp. Yes.
Yes, yes.
I I took that as an honor.
And you should, but you made it through boot camp.
Yes, I'm very, very proud. I mean,
You should be.
I guess because I was older, somebody yelling in my face doesn't really do anything to me.
Right.
But I learned a lot. I mean, the military enhanced the way I lived my life.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't first thank you for your service and
I appreciate it.
congratulations on doing that. It is, you did take a step that people take at a much younger age.
Yeah. As I wrote it actually in my book, the way I even got there. And it was more not like a dare, but if somebody tells me, Valerie, you can't do this, I said, no, don't ever tell me this. Valerie can do whatever she puts in her mind.
she's got no borders.
I have no borders.
So you got this life going on, a very exciting life, doing so many things, traveling, meeting so many people. And then somewhere along the way, you thought, I want to write this down. How did that come about?
You know, this actually it was last summer, and I just came back from Europe. I was in California working for a pop star, which name I, of course, cannot disclose. And I had my friends visiting from Switzerland. And they're again, you know what, Valerie, you did so much in life, and you should write a book. I was like, "Ah, nobody wants to hear my stories." It's like, no, we do. And all of a sudden, I hear from other friends, we would love to read that. So I literally sat down after work and I worked, 16-hour days for that pop star. And I just started to write down my stories, not even thinking about anything. It was just to write down. And while I was doing this, it was a heartbreak because I had to go back deep in my memory box
Yes.
and pull those out, and I was crying. I was crying more than I was laughing when I was writing that book. So it was not just a release, I think it was also therapy for me. And then everything came, yeah, it was fluent. I never stopped. I could sit up there till 4 in the morning and just writing on it and write it all down.
Journaling is something, it goes from journaling to being a book is not an easy step, right? Because a lot of people I know journal. I still, even aside from writing, I journal. I don't do it as frequently as what I used to, but I'm afraid that I don't want to lose those precious memories. So I write them down somewhere and I keep those and then I fill up one book and then another one and another one. And those will never be meant to be a book. Those are really for me. So you're writing this stuff down and to make it into a book is another step.
I had no, I wrote great essays at school, but other than that, I write business emails, right? And it's not, so it took me forever to actually find the voice for that book. And do I want it to be funny? Do I want it to be sad? Is it more, suspense? So that took forever. It took hours and hours and days and months, all summer, just to find that voice.
And the humor is there.
That's the best I could deal with, I think. I think if I see everything more with the humor and not have the bad top the good, that was the intention behind.
But your pain can also be felt in your story.
Yes, I guess because I wrote it in a moment because I had to dig back in those memories. And even now, I'm starting almost to cry when I have to think back. And I guess I wanted whoever reads that book wanted to understand how I felt in that moment.
I think you did a really good job of doing that. And it asks for more. When you're reading the stories, it flows and it makes you want to turn the page to find out what next is going to happen. And that's not always easy to do in a memoir. Some
Mhm.
memoirs that I've read, they're more like reading somebody's diary or journal. And sometimes I feel like, well, I shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
You shouldn't be reading somebody's diary. And even though they've written it themselves and put it out there, yours is truly a story.
Yeah. And I guess it was easy because all that stuff happened. I didn't have to think about how am I gonna it's just it all happened. And some of those things are so unbelievable when you read that book. Some people's like, there's no way this can happen. And it did, unfortunately.
Some people will read it and wish that it would happen to them.
The
Uh,
good the good parts.
just the good parts, absolutely, just the good parts. It's, and then it became that. Did you have an intent in writing this?
No, I just wrote it all down, right? I just collected the stories. And then my very, very good friend, Anik, she's in Switzerland, she's an American. And I said, here, read this. What do you think? And then she kind of pushed me to, you know what, you should edit it, make it a book.
What was the hardest part of the writing, the storytelling?
Again, the storytelling was not hard. It was just the most if you're a writer, you have to be careful not to be repetitive, right? You don't want to use the same words, the same language, the same scenarios, right? And that was the hard part because she pointed it out to me. I think I used the same word, what did she say, 120 times in that book. So that's the hard part to find the editing. I mean, nobody's perfect, but looking back and, I have to proofread here and sometimes I cringe. It's like, oh, I missed that part or that one.
Well, and that is because there is the making of the story, and that to me is the fun part. I write mostly historical fiction, and there's a lot of research that goes into these things. But then the creative process that is there,
Mm,
that I believe that it's not something that you can go out and buy somewhere. It's something that we're born with.
mm,
I think everybody's a storyteller. Not everybody's a writer or an author, but I think everybody's a storyteller. And more so than that, I think everybody loves to hear a good story. Whether it's a sad story or a happy story, people just want to have a good story
yeah.
to listen to. And that's the fun part. You just alluded to the part that's not fun. Now you've got it all together. You got to edit. Hopefully, you have somebody reading it, proofreading it for you, because if we proofread our own stuff, we will make the same mistake over and over and over because our eyes will read a sentence knowing what we wanted to say, not read the sentence as to what it actually says.
Right.
And it can be a critical error for a writer, especially with their first book, because we live by reviews. And there have been people they didn't go through that process. Their books don't sell and they wonder why. And it's because people will put it aside. I've picked up books before, either through Amazon or even in a bookstore, that either the formatting or the grammar part of it was so bad that I couldn't concentrate on the story. Did you self-edit?
Yes and no. So I took chapters of the book. I gave it to my friends or my coworkers and I said, just read it. Do you understand what I mean? How do you feel when you read it? Right? Do you understand everything? And then of course you have to have somebody who reads the entire book. Otherwise don't self-publish if nobody ever read it before. And they can point down things where I thought they're so funny and they couldn't see the point. And that's really hard. If you want to be funny and you want to have a ha-ha moment, that's also hard because I'm not a comedian. So how do you write it that somebody thinks, oh, okay, that was fun?
The book will make you smile, folks. Listen, it'll make you smile. And I won't admit to tears, but because, I'm a guy, but
I had 3 guys crying. I'm not saying which chapter, but 3 guys were in tears reading it.
did they make you sign a DNA?
I mean, this book is I'm open. As I said, I'm open as a book.
You are.
I wrote so much in there. I'm made myself vulnerable, but I'm at a point in my life that I don't care. I don't care what you think or you think.
Were there secrets in the book that you revealed? I don't want to give too much of the book away. First of all, if that's too personal of a question, then just tell me move on to the next one. But were there things in there that you were actually revealing for the very first time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not gonna ask you what those were.
Yes. There were things that I never shared with anyone, or those people are unfortunately not alive anymore.
When you wrote those and then you sat back and you read what you just wrote, was there hesitation? Or did you know this is what I need to say?
No, there was hesitation, especially in a couple of those chapters. But at the end, I said, if I get somebody to read this and how I survived it or how I moved on from it, and I can help somebody with that, then yes, it's totally worth writing it down.
Well, I'm glad you did. And it's again, I wonder sometimes when someone like yourself can sit down and tell these stories. First of all, the remembering of it. We tend to, as humans, we tend to take those some of those memories and we wrap them up so tightly and we tuck them away in a part of our brain that we don't access
Mhm.
unless we're actually looking for them. And well, I think all of us have those memories. And we don't want to. Some writers like myself, I'll take those memories that are hard for me and I'll put them into a story and nobody knows it's my memory. And I don't reveal that to people. But
Mhm.
the emotions of those that memory is enough to add to a character in a story or add to a storyline. But you said, "Hey guys, this is me. This is me." And you've done
Yeah.
that.
It's totally me, and as you said, it was really, really hard. I had to dig out memories where and I'm sorry to all my psychologists I ever or my therapy sessions are gone poof because I went back there and had to dig them out.
Well, you said it was I think early on you said it was very therapeutic, and writing is.
Yeah.
Writing definitely is, whether we're writing about our own past or our own story, or we're a fiction writer making up a story. It's
Mhm.
very therapeutic. It's one of the most relaxing things that I do. The majority of my writing is done after midnight, between midnight and about 3 a.m., because the world's asleep and I'm awake and there's no interruptions. There's nothing going on
Right.
and I can create those characters and be with them and do what I want.
Yeah.
And it, to me, if I just retired recently from the real world job, and so that used to be a release from driving up and down Interstate 35 or going to work and dealing
Mhm.
with the problems of the corporate world, which that they're there, you got to deal with them. And sometimes I needed a release, and that release for me came through writing.
I agree with you. I mean, I've been writing on my new book. It's now this time it's fictional. It's nothing based on my stories. The only thing I took from it is my background working for the richest and richest of the world. The moment I started it, I felt amazing. I come home from work, my dogs are on my lap. I'm curled up on the couch and I'm just plugging it away and I forget the world around me.
Can you give us a sneak preview of what the book's about?
So, it's about it's a lot. The thought behind it's not necessarily the book, it's more I would love to pitch it down the road to Netflix or Hulu.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about 7 employees. They work in positions like I had. So if you read the book, you understand I was a personal assistant, an estate manager, a chief of staff for the richest people in the world. And you have no idea what we see, what we know. So
You have really no life outside of that too. Is it
you
very
don't. You don't.
it's very restricted, right, when you're in that world?
As you're not restricted, we just work many hours. So it's not really a lot of
Well,
life.
yeah, well, I mean, that's what I meant, restricted by that
Right.
style.
Yes, and
Mhm.
it's highly I cannot say anything when I come home, I cannot disclose what happened. But so the book is based on those 7 employees, and of course, they live in the most fantastic places in the world, in Monaco, in Paris, London, Dubai, Hong Kong, and, so yeah, they are gonna get faced by a secret society about of how their employers actually became so rich, and that's what
Ah,
the dark, dark secret is about.
so a little bit of
That those stories are real, that's really historical. We have some part with the Nazis, we have really, like, blood diamonds in Sierra Leone. So, yeah, that's the story.
a mystery thriller.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. What's your favorite place in all the world to visit or to live?
That's a hard part because at the end of my book, and I can reveal that because it doesn't change anything, I'm asking the universe, where are we going next? I just moved back here to the US, a year ago, and I don't know if I'm gonna stay here. There's just so many fascinating places in the world that I still would like to see or maybe to live in.
That is a dream of many people, the
Mhm.
a lot of traveling, and you're very fortunate or blessed, however you wanna think about that, to have been able to do that. So you got the book put together, you got it edited, and then it comes, "I need to publish my book." You self-published,
I self-published, so I went to, the easiest route, I guess, with KTP through Amazon.
and do not let anybody, nor the inflection in my voice, indicate that self-publishing is not a good thing. There's more books self-published now
Yep.
on on Amazon alone. We're
Oh,
200,000
oh,
over
yes.
200,000 a month, right?
Yes.
Than there are traditional publishers. Traditional publishers, literary agents, they are losing their jobs, and so they're coming up with these hybrid situations where they still give you as the writer some of the autonomy of that whole process, which in traditional publishing you do not have. KDP was relatively new at that
Mhm,
time, and self-publishing, because there was traditional publishing and then there was what was called vanity publishing at the time, and that's still around. And
mhm,
I think most people have learned that vanity publishing is not a good route to take. You'll never make that money back. Never. It's just not going to happen. But at that time, self-publishing was thought it was okay, well, good luck with that. What's going to happen with that? Well, that's changed over
mhm.
time. And I think it's become the more popular way to go.
Yeah.
And your ambitions of moving into screenwriting or having your book adapted. Are you thinking of doing the screenwriting yourself or having a book adapted?
Not sure quite yet, but I know this book, will not go through Amazon, and it's just because if you wanna pitch anything to any movie or TV stations, you need to have an agent, and, it's a
Yeah.
whole different story.
It's all about the dialogue.
Now what I learned through the research, so of course, I haven't finished my I know the storyline, but I have to write everybody's part in it, and the secrets. I have not any dialogue in it. So that's gonna be the hardest part, how do you form that into a dialogue that people are actually interested in hearing? Read the story, that's one thing. Oh, it explain it to you, but if you need a dialogue, that's gonna be hard.
Yeah, it's hard, but and you could write a beautiful long narrative and you think, "Okay, how would they get this on screen?"
Mhm,
Well, they
mhm.
don't, and a good example of that, and I've been a fan of his since the early 1970s, is the horror writer Stephen King. His books Many of his books have been turned into movies or shows, and he's always giving credit for it, but because I'm an avid reader, I read, there's not a day that goes by that I'm not reading, but the books and the movies are never the same, and
No, and not
I
just with Stephen King, all right? I mean, most of the books and
Right.
screens.
I personally never watched a movie that I thought was better than the book. I've just never experienced that. And so you have to know how to do that world, but to have the ambition to do that, I say go for it, girl. You got no
Yeah,
borders, right?
I got no borders.
Definitely, definitely go for that, and that would be really, really exciting for that.
Yeah,
Because the other avenue that you can go down, and I think Borderless would do very well with it, is on Audible, putting it out as an audiobook, even something like this, a memoir, they're usually narrated by, the writer, the author. I think with your background And knowing the story intimately, obviously, is another option, and I encourage writers all the time to do that.
How did you go on with an Audible book?
The recording side of Audible is called ACX, and I put the manuscript out there, and I asked for auditions on the
Mhm.
books. Lou Del Bianco narrated 2 of my books, and Kathy Colas narrated my latest book called Fatherless. They're both actors, but they do a lot of, voiceover, and they took both of those. I love them so much because what they did for the stories that I wrote is they made my characters come alive. And in your book, I don't want to talk about my book. I want to talk about yours. In your book, there's people in there that have passed on. There's people in there that maybe you haven't been in contact with in years, but you remember them. And then to have someone who's really talented at narration, talented actors, bring them to life
Mm.
for the first time is an incredible
Wow.
thing, especially with the fiction character. Oletta Green is the main character in Fatherless, and Fatherless took me more than 2 years to write. Over time, I was limited in writing times and changed it so many times, but it's like I knew her. She was born on my back porch.
Wow.
Sitting on my back porch drinking coffee, I thought of Oletta Green, and Kathy Colas made her come alive for me, and it was incredible, and I told Kathy, "For 2 years, this woman's lived in my brain, and you gave her a voice," and it was absolutely spot on and incredible. So I encourage everyone I talk to, every writer, uh, especially indie writers, to look into it's not and there's other ones other than ACX and Audible that's out there right now. That's
Mhm.
just the main ones. Like Amazon is the largest bookstore in the world. You have to be on Amazon. I don't care what anybody tells you. You have to be on Amazon, and you've gotten yours there.
I
So
got mine there, and I think again, I never regret to self-publish, but I want to be honest with everybody who is watching this. The marketing is the hardest part.
well, that you segued right into my next question perfectly. We're spot on this evening.
Again,
What have you tried? What have you had success with? What have you thought that was a waste?
so you see, my book has not even been out, not even 4 weeks, right?
Right. Yeah, very
So,
short notice.
yeah, and so I did what every person would do. You dig into your own social media networking, and I mean, thank you for everybody who bought my book so far. So I had 20 books sold in 2 weeks, and now it's kind of stagnant. And now I really have to go and look out for other outlets. And thank God I have a friend who works for a very known newspaper here in Colorado, and they promised me a feature in their newspaper.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that would, boost it. And with that, indie bookstore here in my area said, once you're out there, we would love to have your book in our shelves.
And did they offer a book signing or a book reading?
Not yet. I just need to have my feature out in the
Yeah.
newspaper first, if that's clicking. And what I ask people always, when you buy my book on Amazon, please write a review. I don't expect 5 stars. Well, actually, I do, but no. Uh, but just please write a review because they are so important. Some of the indie bookstores, they don't really care how many books you sold. They want to see what are the readers thinking about, right?
Well, you're exactly right. And for the folk, especially indie writers out there that don't realize this, the algorithm itself on Amazon and many other places that set books up, a big portion of that algorithm is based on reviews. It's
Mhm.
not based on title, number of pages, word count, even the author. It is based on reviews. And
Mhm.
you have to be, as often as you talk about your book, you have to be asking for the reviews. You can do it politely, like you did, and say, please, or you can tell them, damn it, give me a review when you read my book. And it's all the difference in the world as
Mhm.
far as all the background stuff that goes on in selling books, that's moving it forward. I think
Yeah.
the things that you mentioned with the local newspapers, local bookstores, all of those are fine options. Talking about your book all the time, coming on a podcast, I appreciate you doing that. Don't forget about your contacts throughout life that you had, and go back to that pop star and say, "Hey, by the way, I wrote a book."
About you.
Yeah, about you.
You're in it.
Did you set it up as a pre-order?
It's available.
No, I mean, now it is, but had you
Yeah.
set it up as a pre-order?
No, I didn't know because I literally was a little overwhelmed with how everything went, working 16, 18-hour days and then publishing a books. Probably the next time I would,
It's
research a
something,
little
yeah,
bit
it's something
better.
for all, I think all writers, all authors to consider is that pre-order because it gives you first of all, Amazon lets you set the amount of time that's
Mhm.
on there. But what that gives you a chance to do is just sort of tease that book before it comes out. And so we want to sell Borderless is what we want to do.
Read
And
it.
it's an it's a really good story. And folks, you gotta, yeah, I haven't finished it yet. I don't know the ending, and I never asked the guest to tell me the ending. You've had an incredible life, and thank you for sharing that with
Oh,
us.
thank you so much. That means a lot.
Is there any last word that you would like to tell us either about your this book, your upcoming book, or anything else that you want to tell people that say, "Hey, I'm going to go buy that book."
I just want to mention that yes, I didn't sell a lot of books, and it's not about making money. You're not going to make a lot of money in it. It's
No.
not about that. But one feedback stood out to me the most, and if it was just for that one feedback, then my book did what it was supposed to do. I got a feedback from a neighbor who bought my book, and she said to me, "Valerie, I never read a book. I never read books. The only last book I read was in high school. I bought your book because you told me about it. I read it in 12 hours. And when I was done, I went to Barnes and Nobles and bought me 5 or 6 other books. And now I'm reading book every day." And just that comment, that just was, I was so thrilled.
That is truly, she may not realize this yet, but you have changed her life.
Yes. And that's
I
what I said. Even if that was the only purpose for me to write that book, then I achieved something great.
I was in 6th grade when I knew I wanted to be a storyteller, right? And around ninth grade, 8th or ninth grade, I read, Hemingway for the very first time, and I knew, going from being a storyteller, I wanted to be a writer at that time after reading that, and I thought that if you can do that with words, and make people feel that with words, have emotions with words, that there's no greater satisfaction in the world than to know that you've moved somebody just with words because 'cause they're so, so powerful.
They are
Gonna sell some
carefully.
books. We're gonna sell some books. Folks, it's called
Amazing.
Borderless because some of us were never meant to stay in one place. It's
That's just right.
On Kindle and in paperback, and we'll put the links in the show notes. Thank you for spending some time with us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim. It was a pleasure.